Alright, ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to take a look at the importance of sound design in our filmmaking. Now, I've got an example montage here I've quickly done up. There's no music, it is purely driven by sound design elements to help the flow and pacing of the video. And let's take a look. So, I only ended up using 71 sounds there during that 80-second or so long clip. Made entirely from stock footage, by the way, from ArtGrid, which was kind of weird, searching, for a shot by keyword. But I gave it a shot, it was new, I enjoyed the process. The sounds are all from my personal Essential Flow sound effect pack, which we developed purely on the basis of wanting to add more depth, emotion, and just movement to your cinematic edits. Now, some of these sound design elements that are included within this edit are rises. These build over time, creating suspense and anticipation up to a particular point, and often have a steep drop off, and can be used to introduce a new section or sequence of your film. Drones and atmospheres, these add a little bit of extra depth to your edit, and at the same time give your audience some extra information with regards to the sentiment or emotion they should be feeling towards this particular scene, whether you're trying to convey something that's uplifting or maybe something that's rather intense. It all depends on the atmosphere you're trying to portray. Slow motion, pretty easy to understand. This is just to accentuate the slowing down of time and then the speeding up again. Time lapse. Now this is the opposite, where we actually want to convey the rush and speeding up of time. And now your next category is probably the most common, and that's your transitional type elements. So these could be your classic bassy whooshes, your suckbacks, hits. And I mean, these are there just to help accentuate your movement, help your cuts seem a bit more seamless, and overall help that edit flow. And lastly, we've got some ambient textures like wind, forests, coastal environments, which are there just to make the world feel a little bit bigger. Now let's take a look at some of the sequences that I've built here. Remember, this is a bit exaggerated, this example, in the sense that these sound effects are here to play a supporting role to your visuals, to your soundtrack, where this, I've kind of just used them to create the track itself, but I think it shows the power that sound can have within your film. So as you can see here in Premiere Pro, this is all the layers of sound that I've added throughout the edit. Actually, right down the bottom here is a metronome at 120 beats per minute, which, if we solo it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, which is kind of what I used just to help the pacing of the video before I started actually adding in the sound effects, just to make sure the timing was good. So yeah, let's zoom in. First layer I added was just a general drone called A New Day, just helped the emotion. I found a riser that had a similar vibe to it. And this built up all the way to the point of the reveal of the text. Within there we got some textural elements like some wind. This man taking a breath of fresh air. And yeah, after that we kind of move into Some time lapse with the clouds. Let's mute that. And then some time lapse and whooshing as we pass through all these elements. Now we can skip through here, but as you can see, what I've done is mainly just start to layer things in, because layering is definitely, I'd say, where the magic happens. You know, all the sounds by themselves are pretty simple and basic, but once you start to add them on top of each other, you really start to create this unique environment for your edit. Alright, so we got a whole bunch, so we got all those layers, which ended a nice crack of thunder. Everything cuts off, except for this riser over here, which has been building up for a couple shots now, slowly in the background, rising, building up again to a particular moment, and that moment being the explosion. So everything cuts off there, including this drone atmosphere, which I've kept pretty low, but it builds up as he plays on the soundboard and goes up with him. Again, cuts off with the explosion. There's a whole bunch of clicks I've used. For instance, when he's putting in the cassette, there's this click, coupled with a few other clicks just to add again a bit more depth. We've got a bit more over here. And when the needles are going here, I've added in just a subtle little zip whoosh, so you can hear it, which I think translates quite nicely to, you know, that higher pitch, to being in the red, being on the edge, that rev sort of sound. So the explosion and the flame are all just a bunch of different transitional elements used together. And I've used this quick exhale there to almost, you know, that feeling of a new beginning or just freshness. And then we cut to this outdoors section, which builds with this riser again up to a particular moment, being as this lady puts her hands in the air into slow motion. As she puts her hands into the air, it kind of, you know, made me think about it's like a bird. So I used this element, just thought it worked pretty well, I don't know, paired with some slow motion, this bass crawl slow motion over here. So just before her hands speed ramp down and touch the water, we start to include another element here. Again, just to highlight the fact that we're going into sort of this water sort of underworld, and that plays in the background throughout this water scene and pulls out of it once again. Now I wanted to move away from the water scene back towards more of a city scene. So I found this shot here of the man standing looking out the window, and because it came after this shot of the water, the hues are the same. We've put some blue within there. It almost looks like he's maybe looking out towards the ocean, and because he's wearing an orange jacket, it also relates to the upcoming shots that happen to have a lot of orange in it. So I think it works quite well as a transitional shot there. But to add to this, we've now included a subtle coastal sort of texture in the background, so we can hear it come in. Now it's very subtle, but it plays over those three shots and kind of groups them together and makes them feel like they belong. Remember, sound design doesn't have to be exact. It should never be distracting, but rather play a subconscious role in helping give more information and details towards the scene. Because remember, we only use two senses when we watch a film. We use sight, so everything within this frame we're being told what to look at, but then we have sound, which is playing that supportive role and helping our imagination fill in the rest of the details of that scene. So we move away from this coastal sort of scene towards this fast mechanical element with lots of clicks. Now I actually want to point out this one here, I don't know, let's solo it. If you're wearing headphones right now, can you hear how the sound follows the direction of this machine as it moves from right to left, back to right? So if we look at the panning properties, we can actually see I've done that here. Now this can help sometimes just to add a bit of dynamic sort of movement to your sounds. All right, so we move away into the city scene with lots of time lapse and traffic type noises. We completely cut off there. to quiet. You know, we've used that riser for anticipation. Now we're waiting for that green light. I've used a ping as the light comes in, which is obviously not the sound that a traffic light normally makes when the light changes. So when playing with various sounds from all these different libraries, remember we can still tinker and manipulate these slightly to fit our edit and our needs. Some of the tools we could use are speed, pitch, we could use some reverb, or even throw on a low or high pass filter. These simple, quick and easy tools can be used just to help adjust that sound effect to fit the environment for your edit. So as the light turns green, we almost go like go, so everything starts running. A great excuse to use another slow motion type element. So we've used two different slow motion bits here, one being this one, which has got a nice heartbeat sort of element to it. And we've used this one over here, which is almost like the sounds like of a clock slowing down. And I think when they're paired together, sound quite nice. Right, and the last few bits and pieces have just got a whole bunch of different sort of whooshes, some fiery whooshes. We build up to this last time lapse where we cut everything off. So what I've done here is I've added a little ping, which comes in with this flicker of light. You see in the top right corner? So I think that works pretty well with a bit of a flare. We've added in the heartbeat of the astronaut as he hangs out in space. And the last element we've used, which is obviously very unreal, but just a wind sort of vibe. Now remember, obviously there's definitely no wind in space, but just having that slight bit of texture there gives this sensation of emptiness. And then it just builds up until that's the end of the video. So I think I've touched on just the basics of sound design here today, and I just want to drive home the importance of it. Like, I think it adds such another dimension to your visuals, and it's well worth putting in the effort. So start to learn these skills, harness the power of sound, and I promise you it'll be well worth it. Now, if you've got this far into the video, congratulations, and I'm very impressed. Not many people make it to the end, but here's a little discount or coupon code for you. How about Bryn20, BRYN20. Add that in the link in the description. Get yourself 20% off on my personal Essential Flow sound effects pack if you want to support me. And anyway guys, yeah, I've really enjoyed this, and if you want to see any more tutorials, let me know, because I'd love to give back in some other way. Alright, take care guys.